During that first year on staff, he was so excited about winning the campus and what this was going to do, and he was just absorbed with this whole concept. And at the same time, he had these businesses that needed to be sold, 3 at this point, and he decided that God wanted him to stay in the oil business because that didn't take very much of his time, but really that was going to finance everything. Bill was going to finance Navigators and Young Life and Campus Crusade. He negotiated for the confection business, and the man who bought the business offered Bill $500 for 1 day's consultation a month. I thought, $500 a month. I had a cousin who was making $500 a month and thought that was a fantastic salary, and it was. It was a very good salary. And for 1 day, it sounded reasonable to me that he could give 1 day a month to telling him how to run this business, and Bill had been very successful and so on. And I said, "You told him you'd do it?" And he said, No, don't you see? That's the devil's way of tempting us. And God's called me to work with students. He wants me to get my full time in working with students. And this is just the devil's temptation. And we can't do that. Well, I came home one afternoon from teaching school, and I was very troubled by how was I going to fit into this. That was I going to go ahead and work, and I'd be teaching, and then, I'd be talking about one thing and Bill be talking about another thing. And when Bill and I sat down at the dinner table each evening, he was telling me about what had happened since early morning, giving me a report all day. He was just excited to death. I was talking about children in the classroom, about the opportunities, how this class was going. And it was just absolutely 2 different conversations. At the same time, we were beginning to recruit women to come to work with students. And I thought, I want to work with students. These women are going to be very close to my husband. I want to do that. And I much prefer to be with him than to be trying to achieve in a career all of my own. I really wanted to build whatever we were going to do together. And so we began to pray that God would make it possible. And sure enough, we had a very profitable oil well year that year. And so I was able to step away from teaching and be able to join Bill full-time with the staff. And of course, in the beginning days, people came for $100 a month and their room and board and their clothes. And we dressed them from the purchasing service that Bill had, and the contacts that was one of the business that was to be sold. And by the way, one of the things that God used to prove to me that Campus Crusade was of him and that we were to sell our businesses was that Bill was going to give the Bright's purchasing service. He was going to give it to a student because there was nothing invested, and it was just a call office, and he would give them the contacts with the wholesale houses and so forth. And so I said, wait a minute, we've got to live, and to be sure, you don't know what this oil company is going to do. And so why don't we just say that let's add up what it's going to cost us for this year to live, and then sell the business for that amount. Well, Bill called the next day to the man at the purchasing service, and the man said, "Bill, you're not going to sell this business." And he said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Well, would you let me talk with you before you make the sale?" And so he said, "Sure." So they made an appointment later in the week. And so Bill told him we had prayed about it, and so Bill told him exactly what we were asking. And he bought it and paid cash. So that's when I had nothing to stand on. That's when I absolutely knew. I went to a fraternity that night to speak, and Bill was at the Kappa House. And as he spoke and gave the same messages that we'd been giving before starting Campus Crusade, now then here starting Crusade, but he gave the invitation after speaking to receive Christ. And if you prayed that prayer with me tonight, I'll stand over here, and if you all would just come to tell me. And so the girls lined up all around the room. Practically every girl in the house indicated that she'd prayed that prayer. it was off and running. It was so exciting to see what God had done. And as I've said so many times, it's to Him be the glory.